Episode 56 IB, August 29, 2023. Was a car's speed caught by a radar gun, or pacing? A PM2.5 monitor is like a radar gun, not pacing. Razep View, one early adopter of a PM2.5 monitor, posted about the recent profile of 5 PM2.5 owners in Wire magazine. The Wire article did not connect ownership of PM2.5 monitors with the status of being near neighbors of indoor wood burners whose smoke enters the yards of near neighbors and infiltrates their homes. Responding to recent events, the article dealt with the role of Purple Air PM2.5 monitors, alongside $100,000 EPA monitors, usually placed near industrial sites, not in residential neighborhoods, in providing air quality alert data for the general public, which is now anyone experiencing Canadian wildfire smoke. That data posted not only on Purple Air maps but on Environmental Protection Agency, EPA, AirNow maps of smoke and fire, with of course purple circles signifying the most dangerous levels of PM2.5 particulate matter of 2.5 micrometer size, the perfect size to infiltrate the human lung, setting off a cascade of human health problems and early deaths. Wood burning emits 90% PM2.5, and indoor residential wood burning may be imperceptible with most people's four senses outside a hyperlocalized area of a neighborhood, but it is detected by PM2.5 monitors in that hyperlocalized neighborhood area. PM2.5 monitor readings above the EPA's own National Ambient Air Quality (NOx) standards of 35 micrograms per cubic meter in the yards of near neighbors. Using the readings of Purple Air PM2.5 monitors should be evidence enough to shut down indoor residential wood burning, shutting down each polluting indoor wood burner one by one if necessary. Quibbling that a $249 citizen-owned Purple Air PM2.5 monitor is not as delicate an instrument as a $100,000 EPA monitor which weighs the gravel or wood density, wood smoke might logically be assumed to be mostly wood density, of PM2.5 particles separately before putting the results on the map an hour later. Found side by side with Purple Air PM2.5 monitors which use lasers which count the number of PM2.5 particles that pass in front of the PM2.5 monitors and publish the results every 10 minutes. Is like quibbling over the performance of normal versus pricey radar guns used to regulate and shut down automobile speeders in front of an elementary school. Was the car speeding at 20 miles per hour above the speed limit or 20.01 miles per hour over the speed limit? A $100,000 radar gun might get the speed data down to the micromile per hour, but if the cheaper, more modern radar gun is used, speeding 20 miles per hour over the limit is still recorded. The results are the same. Someone who is speeding 20 miles over the limit who could kill young children is taken off the streets, so the results of a radar gun are accepted, and not quibbled over. Lots of speeding tickets involve the use of radar measurement systems because it's generally a reliable and straightforward method for measure vehicle speed. The pacing described in the online article on fighting an automobile speeding ticket below do not apply to PM2.5 measurement from the yards of near neighbors because thankfully indoor residential wood burning is done in stationary locations and the stationary location of the indoor wood burning can be easily pinpointed once it is detected by a hyperlocalized stationary PM2.5 monitor in the yard of a near neighbor. Besides the price or type of PM2.5 monitor, another quibble or excuse of indoor residential wood burners is that wood burners are using dry wood instead of wet or green wood, or using a certified wood stove. However, the PM2.5 monitor dispassionately records the number of PM2.5 particulates that pass before it, just as a radar gun dispassionately records the speed of the automobile that the radar gun is aimed at. The saga of highly polluting certified wood stoves being manufactured and sold from the inception of wood stove certification in 1988 to the present day of 2023 is old news by now. Assistant Attorney Generals from 10 states in August 2023 are suing the EPA to improve the certification of indoor residential wood stoves, or is the lawsuit only brought to bring certainty of a continuing market for their polluting wood stoves? To the wood stove vendors who pushed for the loopholes to compliance with even the lax standards of the EPA in the past that made these polluting wood stoves legal and protected from complaints of pollution by near neighbors, even if the certified wood stoves continued to be highly polluting? The difference between $100,000 EPA PM2.5 monitors and $249 Purple Air PM2.5 monitors has been fixed by correlation of $249 monitors to $100,000 monitors with a simple mathematical formula before putting the data of both PM2.5 monitors side by side on AirNow maps of smoke and fire for the general public to depend on when planning their day to avoid Canadian wood smoke pollution if possible. Without a complaint-based system to control emissions of PM2.5, avoiding wood smoke pollution consists of staying inside a sealed home with multiple air purifiers in order to breathe freely. The following article argues that if a police officer doesn't use a radar gun, but relies on the police officer's own speedometer during a chase, a method called pacing, the speeding ticket can be fought by attorneys. https://www.nalo.com/legal-encyclopedia/free-book/beat-ticket-book/chapter 6-2.html Fighting a speeding ticket. How was your speed measured? Need professional help? Talk to a traffic ticket attorney. Please answer a few questions to help us match you with attorneys in your area. Excerpts edited by Rozep for brevity and clarity and relationship to residents against wood smoke emission particulates. The key to challenging a speeding ticket: knowing how the officer measured your speed. Generally, your speed and the officer's measurement method will be on the ticket itself. But you could also ask the officer or later request the officer's notes through a process called discovery. Here, we discuss the 5 most common methods of speed detection. Pacing. Many speeding tickets result from the police officer following or pacing a suspected speeder and using his or her own speedometer to estimate the suspect's speed. How pacing works. With this technique, the officer must maintain a constant distance between the police vehicle and the suspect's car long enough to make a reasonably accurate estimate of its speed. Some states have rules that the officer must verify speed by pacing over a certain distance. For example, at least 1/8 or 1/4 of a mile. In practice, even in states that don't require pacing over a minimum distance, most traffic officers will usually try to follow you for a reasonable distance to increase the effectiveness of their testimony, should you contest the ticket. How pacing fails. Now let's discuss the most common ways pacing can be shown to be inaccurate. The farther back the officer, the less accurate the pace. For an accurate pace, the officer must keep an equal distance between the patrol car and your car for the entire time of the pace. Otherwise, the officer's speed won't match that of the car he or she is pacing. Keeping a constant distance between the officer's front bumper and the suspect's rear bumper is sometimes called bumper pacing. Correct bumper pacing requires both proper training and good depth perception, and it becomes more difficult the farther behind the officer is from your car. The most accurate pace occurs where the officer is right behind you. But patrol officers like to remain some distance behind a suspect to avoid being detected by the driver. So, if you know an officer was close behind you for only a short distance, your best tactic in court might be to try to show the officer's supposed pacing speed was really just a catch-up speed. To establish this defense, you'll need to first ask the officer the distance over which he or she tailed you. If the officer admits it was, say, only 1/8 mile, between 1 and 2 city blocks, it will help to testify, if true, that you noticed in your rearview mirror that the officer was closing the gap between your car and the patrol car very quickly. The officer doing so would have the effect of giving him or her an accurately high speedometer reading. The math of pacing. Pacing at dusk or night. Pacing is much more difficult in low-light situations unless the officer is right on your tail. Basically, the accuracy of pacing depends in large part on the officer's ability to see clearly. Under dark conditions, the officer just can't see as well as during the daytime. Road conditions can affect pacing. Pacing is easiest and most accurate on a straight road with no hills, dips, or other obstacles and that can obstruct of the officer's continuous view of the vehicle he or she is pacing. Under these ideal conditions, the officer can keep the patrol car at a constant distance behind you while pacing your speed. Hills, freeway interchanges, dips, curves, busy intersections, and heavy traffic make for a poor pacing environment. All these obstacles can be used to challenge the accuracy of the pace speed the officer reported. Post on Facebook by an early adopter of a PM2.5 monitor. August 2023. Excerpts edited by Rozep for brevity and clarity and relationship to residents against wood smoke emission particulates. Ellen Gala. 1 sulforate tem 08 G9 FL6I48 F869 F7 Hem9 C1 UU6 C1695 A7 CM07 FG6I04F. I installed the first purple air sensor on the U.S. West Coast north of San Francisco. Most of the people I know who got one around that time, and since, did it to gather data on wood stove smoke, not wildfires. That said, shortly after I got my sensor there was a fire in Trinidad that lasted several days. The smoke was intense. It was a dramatic early demonstration of the difference between official regulatory air monitoring and localized citizen science monitoring. My new sensor clearly reflected what we were breathing: extremely polluted, very unhealthy air. But NCUAQMD wasn't issuing an air quality advisory. They were, instead, officially reporting good air quality, because that's what the nearest official monitor, which runs 1 day out of 3 and is a half-hour away, showed. Then some years after that, when we were being affected by smoke from wildfires, I came across people on Nextdoor commenting about my sensor's readings. It was a weird feeling when I first realized I wasn't the only one who checks my sensor on the map. There is an unfortunate error in this article. The author's statement, everything from floating particles smaller than 10 micrometers, PM10, like dust and wildfire smoke, to particles 2.5 micrometers, PM2.5, or smaller, like gas fumes, is nonsensical and not true. Most smoke particles are in the PM2.5 and smaller, PM0.1, size ranges. Otherwise, it's a pretty good piece about purple air. ROSUP view. There are 5 purple air PM2.5 monitor owners profiled in the Wired article below. Excerpts edited by ROSUP for brevity and clarity and relationship to residents against wood smoke emission particulates. 1. G.S. A resident of Baltimore, Maryland. GS felt like this summer of 2023's wildfire smoke from Canada invading U.S. airspace wasn't just a fluke, something that affected his life every 20 years or so. This felt like something that would likely happen again, and soon. Like anyone who breathes, i.e., everybody, air quality always felt somewhat important to GS. He has 3 kids, one of whom has asthma. GS himself uses a sleep apnea machine at night. When the sky turned orange and taking a breath felt like sucking in a campfire, GS decided it was time to learn more about how his air quality was changing. He bought a purple air sensor that lets him monitor the air quality outside his house in real time and share the data on the internet, where it gets pooled with other sensor readings from down the street, across town, and around the world. It's been an eye-opening experience, the last several months, just coming to understand the basic, most fundamental importance of clean air, GS says. We just really don't appreciate it until you're forced to breathe in a lot of terrible air. And GS says there's a sort of camaraderie to it too. It's a spirit, he says, that feels like it has been squeezed out of much of the wider internet by a handful of big social media companies intent on monetizing their platforms at all costs and erecting walled gardens around their services. One of the gee whiz wonders of the internet of the early days was this feeling of being connected to other people, GS says. It's community-driven, community sourcing. There's this sense of a collective project you want to contribute to. You're not just taking from it, you're giving something back. 2. J.K. lives in Ottawa, Ontario, Canada. With all that's going on with climate change and all the extremes that everybody's experiencing, sadly, I think this is going to become the new normal. We're going to have to start living with this. J.K. recently bought 2 purple air sensors after this summer's wildfires. He placed one in his yard at his home and the other at a family cottage a few miles away. J.K. has consulted for public health agencies about COVID-19 and other infectious diseases. Being forced indoors due to the Canadian wildfires evoked the lockdown days of the COVID pandemic, albeit with its own twists. Back then, the guidance for social distancing allowed for outdoor excursions, like going for a walk. For someone like J.K., it was a way to stave off cabin fever and get some fresh air. But when the smoke came, he felt pinned inside without respite. We've been kind of conditioned to going out in fresh air, but that's dangerous now, J.K. says. It's a weird feeling. J.K., in Canada, also hopes sharing his data will help researchers and forecasters looking to predict unhealthy air events in the future. I feel fortunate I'm in a position to be able to do this, J.K. says. I can provide that information, and people can make use of it to inform their lives. It gives them better situational awareness. 3. ES, who lives in Washington, D.C., is an alternative school teacher and the education program manager at Clean Air Partners, an advocacy group for air quality awareness based in Washington, D.C. Between the wildfires and COVID, I think more and more people want to know what they are breathing, ES says. It's terrible that it takes these tragedies, these crises to make us realize we've been sleeping at the wheel. We have no choice but to breathe, and yet we really haven't made a big deal about what we are breathing. 4. A.R., who lives in Maryland, is a software engineer. He's had asthma since childhood, which was only exacerbated by a bout of COVID 2 years ago. When the wildfire smoke descended this summer, he wore a painter's mask with built-in ventilators when going outside. AR says he often feels like people with conditions like his are treated as a burden, until something like the summer's wildfires brings widespread attention to air quality. People like me are like the canaries in the coal mines, AR says. The stuff that we're oftentimes reacting to is bad for you anyways. Somebody who may be perfectly fine and not show any apparent symptoms, they're getting exposed to this stuff too. Then many years down the line, you find out they're impacted by it, or it's in their bloodstream, or they have some kind of lung disease. Indoors, his home is a veritable air quality fortress. He has 4 air purifiers in the house. He has phones mounted to a wall in each room of his house that let him see air conditions at a glance. They're always on, and their interfaces evoke the multicolored blinking lights of the inside of a Star Wars spaceship. He's made his software dashboard for mobile devices available on GitHub, along with self-made data visualizers others can use to make sense of their purple air readings. AR has a purple air monitor of his own that he says nearly 500 people on the platform have favored as a resource in the area. It feels good to be able to provide this data to the community in some way and raise awareness, AR says. If it helps someone have a good day outside, hey, that's great. Wonderful. 5. WM is an exposure assessment researcher at Northern Illinois University. Even if you don't fully grasp particulate matter ratings, seeing a big red blob on a map over your house is a pretty quick way to tell something is off. It's a form of engaged learning, says. You can touch it, you can feel it, you can see it. It's community sharing that's just easy for people to opt into. You can gain as much or as little information as you want. Can we use it to help change behaviors? Wired Magazine. August 2023. Excerpts edited by Rozep for brevity and clarity and relationship to residents against wood smoke emission particulates. https://www.wired.com/story/the-people-quality-sensor-data/bxid equals. It's easy to check the air quality. Meet the people collecting that data for you. The network of citizens who publicly report their air quality readings are helping their neighbors brave the proliferation of harmful wildfire smoke in the atmosphere. When smoke from eastern Canadian wildfires smothered much of Canada and the American East Coast this summer, it resurfaced a distant memory for Gus Sentimentes. The last time smoke descended on his home in Baltimore, Maryland, was in 2002, when fires in Quebec spread smoke more than 700 miles southward. But this summer was different. The smoke lingered longer and spread farther. It also created quite a stir in areas that aren't used to being that close to the effects of a cataclysmic wildfire. The world is warming, extreme heat is spawning hellish blazes, and even those not in the immediate vicinity are feeling their effects far downwind. The impossible fight to stop Canada's wildfires. The race to save Yellowknife from raging wildfires. Want to understand Canada's wildfire crisis? Read this book. Wildfires. How bad is the smoke in the Midwest? Check out this map. Wildfire smoke has long been a staple of the summer months along the west coast of the U.S. Earlier this summer, when the wildfires in eastern Canada burned thousands of acres and covered the east coast in clouds of acrid haze, people who had never known life in wildfire country found themselves choking on wildfire smoke. As wildfires worsen and spread, people in communities that aren't historically thought of as wildfire-prone are starting to track the smoke in their air. It's relatively easy to check your community's air quality. At least, if you live in the U.S., and also in an urban area that's mandated to report such data to the Environmental Protection Agency. The Air Quality Index, or AQI, is the measure of potentially harmful particulate matter in the air around us. The readings focus on particles smaller than 10 micrometers, PM10, that are easily inhaled, like dust or pollen. The really small particles, anything below 2.5 micrometers, PM2.5, have greater potential to travel farther and more easily seep into your lungs. Those are the particles of wildfire smoke that can spread for hundreds of miles. Official sources like the World Health Organization and the U.S.-focused Air Now track air quality, usually more rigorously in populated areas, and rank the ratings on a scale from good to hazardous. AQI readings have traditionally been taken by big, pricey measuring instruments owned and operated by state or local governments. But over roughly the past half-decade, small, low-cost devices have democratized air quality monitoring. Companies like Purple Air and IQ Air have built up reliable air quality tracking networks made up by citizen-owned monitors. Purple Air says it has more than 25,000 units in its network worldwide. These monitors are cheap devices that hook up to your Wi-Fi network and are easy to install. The sensors take regular air quality readings and then upload the data to the broader networks, offering a crowdsourced snapshot of air quality information that spans the globe. The devices aren't perfect. There's a greater chance of human error when the monitors aren't placed by someone who's trained to collect air quality readings, but the sheer scale of the network means inaccurate outliers have a higher chance of being drowned out by the sea of other nearby devices. A platform like Purple Air also makes the data immediately accessible by visualizing the air quality readings on a map, using a color-coded scale from blue and green, okay, to red and purple, very bad. Making the data more accessible can make people more interested in paying attention to it, especially when disaster strikes. Update August 28, 2023, corrected the distinction between PM10 and PM2.5 particles. PM2.5 can include wildfire smoke. The Week, a weekly print and/or online news aggregator magazine, on page 21 of its print September edition of its magazine, wrote, excerpts edited by Rozep for brevity and clarity and relationship to residents against wood smoke emission particulates. This article should have the headline, PM2.5 may be a key vector of antibiotic-resistant bacteria. PM2.5 affects antibiotics. Scientists have found an explanation for why antibiotic resistance is rising so quickly, reports The Washington Post. PM2.5, air pollution. Researchers compared levels of PM2.5 pollution with the rate of antibiotic resistance in 116 countries. The link becomes stronger over time. Their findings suggest that antibiotic resistance driven by PM2.5 air pollution may have caused 480,000 premature deaths in 2018. The report suggests that unless air quality improves, the number could rise by 270,000 more excess deaths by 2050. Antibiotic resistance, sometimes called the silent epidemic, is a form of natural selection. Every time we use the medications, they kill off vulnerable pathogens and leave those that are drug-resistant. Pollution may affect the process because PM2.5 is a key vector for spreading antibiotic-resistant bacteria. A letter sent on August 28, 2023 to the Assistant Attorney Generals threatening to sue the EPA over wood stove certification follows. Dear Assistant Attorney General, attached is a letter that was sent to the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases, NIAID, Director Dr. Jean Marazzo, former acting NIAID Director Dr. Hugh Auchincloss and National Institutes of Health, NIH, Director Dr. Lawrence Tabak regarding regulation and the ability to shut down PM2.5 polluting indoor residential wood burners. PM2.5 pollution is known to cause antibiotic resistance, making infectious disease pandemics more likely and uncontrollable. The letter asks Dr. Marazzo to apply a parallel track to indoor residential wood burning pollution in 2023. This parallel track would include both EPA wood stove certification and a complaint-based system using Purple Air PM2.5 monitor data collected from the yards of near neighbors of indoor residential wood burners. This would be a way to address the very real impact of PM2.5 pollution which EPA wood stove certification fails to address. We propose that the use of Purple Air monitors would provide important data on PM2.5 air pollution that is currently missing in the EPA wood stove certification. This proposal is modeled on the approach Dr. Anthony Fauci used in 1989 that allowed a parallel track of both the Food and Drug Administration, FDA, use of AZT for AIDS that had the unfortunate side effect of blindness along with a second drug, ganciclovir, that actually cured the blindness. An earlier letter sent to your office asked that you include a complaint-based system of regulating indoor residential wood burning using Purple Air PM2.5 data in your suit against the EPA. Indoor residential wood burners are already ineffectively certified by the EPA. This violates the EPA's own National Ambient Air Quality Standards, NOx, emission limits of 35 micrograms per cubic meter in a 24-hour period. Using data from Purple Air PM2.5 monitors in the yards of near neighbors who complain of PM2.5 from hyperlocalized indoor residential wood burners would provide the missing and important evidence of this type of air pollution. Currently, if a near neighbor's complaint is made to a local health department, a complaint using federal NOx exceedance data is not considered as a basis for a complaint against neighboring indoor residential wood burning. It is also not considered as a basis for shutting down the wood-burning appliance when the indoor residential wood stove has been federally EPA certified. Lawsuits for nuisance are expensive and beyond the means of the average American and are not considered precedents in courts generally. Contacting state agencies to shut down polluting wood stove use that affects the health and lives of near neighbors has been unproductive because decisions made by the EPA determine the decisions made by state agencies. Although the scope of your lawsuit seems confined to asking the EPA to continue their wood stove certification program as is, albeit at a faster pace, we ask that you consider the intent behind asking the EPA to tighten their standards for wood stove certification on a regular basis. The intent of an environmental protection agency is to protect the environment. This has perhaps been narrowly construed to be protecting air, water, and ground from contamination. From industries only. But United States citizens should actually benefit from this environmental protection as well. Tightening wood stove standards on a regular basis should result in protecting the environment as well as protecting United States citizens from harm from the air, water, and ground. We believe that the EPA's responsibilities are inextricably connected with public health responsibilities of other government agencies such as NIAID. Please try to accomplish something meaningful for the American people with this lawsuit by considering using a parallel track to include PM2.5 data in future decisions about air quality standards. Although I am not your constituent, by commencing to sue a federal agency you are representing me as a citizen of the United States and in that sense as your constituent. Thank you. Sent to Cody.Doig@alaska.gov Alaska Senior Assistant Attorney General Cody Doig. Jason.James@ilag.gov Illinois Assistant Attorney General Jason James. Goldstein@oag.state.md.us Maryland Special Assistant Attorney General Stephen Goldstein. Turner.Smith@mass.gov Massachusetts Assistant Attorney General Turner Smith. Peter.Serdo@ag.state.mn.us Minnesota Special Assistant Attorney General Peter Serdo. Lisa.Morelli@law.njoag.gov New Jersey Deputy Attorney General Lisa Morelli. Nicholas.Batino@ag.newyork.gov New York Assistant Attorney General Nicholas Batino. Paul.Garahan@doj.state.or.us Oregon Attorney in Charge Paul Garahan. Steve.Novick@doj.state.or.us Oregon Special Assistant Attorney General Steve Novick. Nick.Persampieri@vermont.gov Vermont Assistant Attorney General Nick Persampieri. Caroline.Kress@atg.wa.gov Washington Assistant Attorney General Caroline Kress. Chris.Wrights@atg.wa.gov Washington Assistant Attorney General Chris Wrights. Jennifer.Cleanair.gov General Counsel, Puget Sound Clean Air Agency Jennifer A. Dold. Jean.Morazzo@nih.gov Director of National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases Jean Morazzo. Hugh.Auchincloss@nih.gov January to July 2023 Acting Director of National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases Hugh Auchincloss. Lawrence.Tabak@nih.gov Director of the National Institutes of Health Lawrence Tabak. https://RAC President Testword pre-sscom/ Please attach PDF letter to NIAID Director Dr. Jean Morazzo to an email from you to Jean Morazzo NIH.gov/ Episode 56 GF July 19, 2023. The Ask, request a complaint-based system from 10 attorney generals suing the EPA to give wood stove users certainty. The Ask, emails of 3 NIH officials Jean.Morazzo@nih.gov, Hugh.Auchincloss@nih.gov, Lawrence.Tabak@nih.gov emails of 13 assistant attorney generals, deputy attorney generals and general counsel preparing to sue the EPA to provide clarity for indoor residential wood stove manufacturers, vendors, and users. Instead, the Assistant Attorneys General should ask for a PM2.5 pollution complaint-based system in place of the failed wood stove certification program. The states involved are Alaska, Illinois, Maryland, Massachusetts, Minnesota, New Jersey, New York, Oregon, Vermont, and Washington, as well as the Puget Sound Clean Air Agency. A new icon has been added to the RAWSC President's website, which is now the nearest right icon. The icon is an ask that has already been described in episode 56 GB, description of the parties who should be at the table when deciding on safe wood stove emission limits and fence line measurements, rather than wood stove certification, and emails to contact 10 deputy or assistant attorney generals and 1 general counsel. Those PDFs are included at the icon link. Residents Against Wood Smoke Emission Particulates, see https://rossipresidents.wordpress.com and click on the nearest right icon for the Ask 1. Email PDF letters to 3 officials of the National Institutes of Health, NIH, and NIID https://rossipresidenteswordpress.com/ please attach PDF letter to NIID Director Dr. Jean Marazzo to an email from you to Jean Marazzo NIH Gov/ the Ask 2. Email PDF letters to 13 Assistant Attorneys Generals, Deputy Attorney Generals and General Counsel https:// rossipresidenteswordpress.com/ please contact Attorneys General about August suit versus CPA asking for certainty for wood stove users. ROSSEP asks for complaint-based SITM based on PM monitor data exceeding EP/ to the right of that 3. Barbie goes to the dating game https://rossipresidents.wordpress.com/1-Barbie-goes-to-the-dating-game to the right of that 4. Cookies that may contain rocks are recalled https://rossipresidents.wordpress.com/cookies-that-may-contain-rocks-are- recalled /2. The right of that 5, The Fox Owns the Forest card game https://rossipresidents.wordpress.com/the-fox-owns-the-forest-card-game-TBA then to the right of that, the latest months, 6, August and 7, July 2023, of PDFs of articles with URLs to search on https://rossipresidents.wordpress.com/1-August-2023-PDFs-of-URLs and https://rossipresidents.wordpress.com/1-July-2023-PDFs-of-URLs to the right of that, 8. Stickers to hand out for ROSSEP, games such as 9A, Bingo for ROSSEP, 9B, Crosswords 4. ROSSEP 9C, PM 2.5's Jeopardy free game https://u2.be/lnsg32pydnc 9D, PM 2.5 free Monopoly https://u2.be/cuck1pscqnq and Endwood Smoke Monopoly 9E, vending machines for PM 2.5 monitors, and 10. Icon links to 30-minute YouTube videos and Spotify podcasts as well as podcasts.google.com, Castbox and Pocket Cast. Pocket Cast is only free on the phone app. Pocket Cast works on Apple phones, and, below those icons, icon links to monthly URLs of PDFs from June 2023 to May 2022.